Hi everyone, thank you for sharing this journey with me. My name is re-Jenkins. This final presentation is based on a meta-analysis research of literature on digital libraries. My research question was, what are the best pedagogical practices for technology integration of digital libraries in PK to 12 schools? Areas of focus included the history of digital libraries in higher education, and digital libraries in PK to 12 schools. Both quantitative and qualitative data were gathered. The results of many comparative studies organized around my research question were synthesized and interpreted to inform pedagogical practice. The data collected allowed me to understand the changes that have occurred over time with digital libraries, to identify possible barriers, and to collect evidence to determine the best approach for the integration of technology for implementing a digital library in my school board. The context of this research topic is directly related to my work assignment as a consultant with the Centre Provincial de Ressources Pédagogiques for the Conseil Scolaire Acadien Provincial, or CSAP, in Nova Scotia. The framework of this research project provided some pedagogical principles to guide future actions, such as an investment in a digital library platform and the purchase of many digital books for pedagogical resources as required by our school board to better serve students and all CSAP employees. This literature review brought me back to Marshall McLuhan's coined phrase that the medium is the message. He examined the effects on society of any technology with 4 questions as a pedagogical tool with which to consider any medium. What does the medium enhance? What does the medium make obsolete? What does the medium retrieve that had been obsoleted earlier? And finally, what does the medium flip into when pushed to extremes? Digital books are but one aspect of the current historical change that IVIC 2019 refers to as a digital revolution. Culture and society are shaped by such historical changes. He agrees with McLuhan's theory that, alongside other strong factors, media, such as for example the emergence of printed books as a new media and now digital books, have played and still play an enormous role in the development of societies and changes in human behavior. McLuhan's ideas are specific while they emphasize that the essential part of media is not the content that is transmitted, but the nature of the medium itself. Singer and Alexander's 2017 data revealed that the medium appeared to have little influence on comprehension outcomes of children between the ages of 5 and 6 who read simple texts. But for older ages, such as high school students, they learned that when those students were engaged in the processing of more complex texts, the findings suggest that medium type matters in comprehension. This is supported by Lenhard et al. 2017, who concluded that although participants read more quickly in digital medium, it led to a shallower processing of the text. Newman et al. 2017 also claimed that there is a lack of understanding about how digital literacy skills emerge and how these skills influence the development of reading both digital and non-digital texts to a proficient level. The rapid pace of change in technologies of literacy results in multiple changes throughout a learner's literacy journey. As educators, we need to explicitly teach digital literacy skills so students can be proficient. In 1995, Fox et al. State that mankind will naturally gravitate toward the electronic library because conventional libraries are already investing in digital data, which is cheaper to buy and store, as well as because of an increase in demand for accessible digital information. Vlag 2016 turns to Postman's 1982 analysis that changes in technological conditions, specifically the level of the predominant media we use to relate to one another and the world, constitute the driving force behind transformations in education. He states that when the screen comes to replace the book as the prevalent medium, this is bound to have implications for the future of education, and in particular, scholastic forms of education. These implications will undoubtedly affect the future of the library as it is perceived today. Bonk, 2010, explains how historically many changes have occurred due to major catastrophes like the current COVID-19 global pandemic. New educational delivery modes have emerged from Hurricane Katrina, SARS, and H1N1. It has been a year of changes in higher education and PK-12 education due to COVID-19. Digital platforms for education have become a new normal. Kay, a computer scientist, proposed a notebook-sized Dynabook in 1968, which would be a new kind of electronic book for content of all kinds and could also serve as a super medium. In 2000, Kay reminisces in a review article on ebook readers about his model of this Montessori-like toy for children who are set up by nature to learn their environment through play, and if we want them to grow up in the 21st century, we should give them 21st century toys and environments in which to play. Kay explains that the Dynabook would supply blank media, where the software would be somewhat like the original Lego blocks, which sounds very similar to coding with blocks in Scratch programming. They wanted the child to be able to draw ideas, to type them, to play on a musical keyboard, to be able to get ideas from elsewhere, and to communicate with other children. These possibilities in 1968 are now realities with current technology. Lynch explains that he began doing library-based computing around 1975 as a student at Columbia University, and that in the early 80s they built an inter-campus communications network at the University of California to provide access to Melville throughout the state. In the 80s, Melville's user base was worldwide by academic institutions and high-profile places like MIT in the US. A decade later, the Internet is an inexpensive platform for libraries to build and deliver books, research data, publications, information, multiple resources and services without the expensive costs of capital infrastructure that is required for physical on-site collections. Riggs, 2020, a public library director, explains how library practices have adapted because of closures due to COVID-19. Without the allure of physical buildings, materials, and meeting spaces to draw people in, public libraries are redefining their virtual presence as a welcoming third space to connect the community with trusted information, electronic resources, and online programs and services. Digital libraries enable people to access human knowledge at any time and anywhere in a friendly, multimodal way by overcoming barriers of distance, language, and culture, and by using multiple network-connected devices. Researchers have been investigating university library users' perceptions of digital resources and gathering data regarding the emerging trends and patterns in higher education to better understand the uses, motivations, and barriers surrounding faculty members and instructors' use of educational digital libraries. The rapid acceleration of information available via the Internet makes locating high-quality, accurate, and truly useful educational resources challenging for teachers and learners. Electronic resources have become critical parts of an integrated learning environment in higher education, and students are continuously seeking shortcuts and value their personal time. Digital library use varies amongst library website users. There are 3 perspectives: 1, undergraduate students, 2, master's students, and 3, doctoral students and faculty members. Doctoral students and faculty members had the highest level of visits, and undergrad students the lowest. Digital libraries in higher education have existed for years. There was fear that this transition in libraries could lead to dramatic changes where new technologies would completely supplant the old and that librarians would no longer be required. I can attest that without the guidance of Kathy Chisholm, liaison librarian for the School of Education and Health at CBU, I would have struggled to conduct efficient literature research. The rapid pace of changes in information technology and digital reading has created a need for user-appropriate digital libraries. Digital literacy skills need to be systematically taught to the librarian teachers, pre-service teachers, and in-service teachers as part of the syllabus of their training so that students acquire lifelong digital literacy skills. Digital libraries vary considerably in PK-12 schools. Z 2008 states that the value of digital libraries needs to be judged by the users. New literacies are not going away. Educators need to not only create learning environments where students can collaborate and communicate within the technology-rich environment that is ever present, but also to explicitly teach the strategies required to do so successfully. O'Donnell and Hallam, 2014, found that children who were given the choice of digital or print books used both formats seamlessly and for a variety of purposes. All literacy curriculum needs to include digital literacy. The gaps in learning as a result of remote teaching and learning due to COVID-19 also indicate the need for professional development for the teaching school community and to explicitly teach digital literacy strategies to students. Mardi et al. 2008 proposed the Quadratic Usage Model (QUM) framework for understanding educational digital library use. Quadrant 1 is technology, access to it and its functionality. Quadrant 2 is competency, where the skills, education, knowledge, and experience that teachers and students have or lack can impact how well they use the technology. Quadrant 3 is culture-related values that is found in policy from past practices to factors from the external environment. The final quadrant is personal values that include preferences, beliefs, traditions, and trust that are linked to the individual user's motivation and choice. The QUM model, in an educational digital library context, provides a tool that can help stakeholders evaluate their efforts for innovation and expansion to their existing physical library to improve teaching and learning in schools by creating another environment for digital literacy. Bratt 2017 concludes that the traditional pedagogical role of a school library should remain its core. E-reading is complementary to reading books. The school librarian must have digital skills so that they can be taught and learned as a second type of literacy. Singer and Alexander, 2017, state that for those invested in understanding and promoting student learning, there's little gain from setting up a false dichotomy between reading and digital reading. An overview of the implications is that learners today are expected to read efficiently and effectively online. The time has come to provide them with the space and sufficient strategy training and practice to meet these expectations. Further research includes professional development on what digital literacy is, how to teach it explicitly, how to build a school digital library based on users' needs, and how to best support digital library users. A final thought: print books are the oldest means of communication, and digital books one of the newest. The pedagogical challenge is merging the two mediums in innovative and interesting ways with pedagogical value at the forefront that will keep students engaged in learning and teachers passionate about teaching.